Welcome, readers. Today on Book Chat, we are concluding the Legend series by Marie Lu with the final book entitled Rebel. Stay tuned. Today's episode is brought to you by the Shelf Addiction merch store. Check out all the bookish t-shirts, notebooks, mugs, and more. Don't miss out on these original designs, perfect for any book nerd. Support the podcast and visit shelfaddiction.com/merch and pick up your next favorite bookish item. Hey everyone, I'm your host, Tamara Ford, and welcome to Book Chat here on the Shelf Addiction Podcast. Participate in this book discussion by joining the Facebook group Shelf Addiction Official or joining us over on the Book Clubs app. Talk about the series with us as well as other bookish topics. I hope to hear your thoughts on this book discussion. You can always find us on Twitter and Instagram. The links for everything mentioned are below in the show notes. If you enjoyed today's episode, please support this podcast by sharing it with some book nerd friends or on your favorite social media space. That would really help me out, and I appreciate you for doing so. The uncut video version of this podcast is available right now on Patreon. Join us there where we get even more candid with podcast after shows and more. So if you're interested in that at all, you'll need to come on over to Patreon and sign up. You can also show your support by utilizing our sponsor offers. Go to shelfaddiction.com/support and see all of the current promotional offers. Before we get started, I have to issue a spoiler warning. This is a book discussion, so nothing is off limits. You've been warned. Welcome back to another fantasy series read-along discussion, and today we are talking about the fourth and final book in the series, which is Rebel. Yay! Joining me is my fantasy series read-along co-host, Casey from Heartful of Ink. Welcome back, Casey.
Hello. I'm so happy to be here.
Yay, I'm glad you're here. You took time out of your morning.
Yes, my very busy morning.
Yes.
Sitting on a beach.
Oh, so busy. I mean, I get it.
Busy. So busy.
All right, y'all. So we are going to jump right on in. Today we are talking about Rebel. As I said, it was published October 1st, 2019, which is 6 whole years after the last book, which was the quote unquote trilogy end. But
yes.
you know.
You know how it goes.
Yes. It was published by Roaring Brook Press, and the audiobook was published by Macmillan Audio. The audiobook is narrated by Niall Bullock and Stephen Kaplan. The unabridged runtime is 10 hours and 31 minutes, and the hardcover comes in at 376 pages. Casey, will you share the synopsis, please?
I will. Respect the legend, idolize the prodigy, celebrate the champion, but never underestimate the rebel. With unmatched suspense in her signature cinematic storytelling, #1 New York Times bestselling author Marie Lu plunges readers back into the unforgettable world of legend for a truly grand finale. Eden Wing has been living in his brother's shadow for years. Even though he's a top student at his academy in Ross City, Antarctica, and a brilliant inventor, most people know him only as Daniel Wing's little brother. A decade ago, Daniel was known as Day, the boy from the streets who led a revolution that saved the Republic of America. But Day is no longer the same young man who was once a national hero. These days, he'd rather hide out from the world and leave his past behind. All that matters to him now is keeping Eden safe, even if it also means giving up June, the great love of Daniel's life. As the two brothers struggle to accept who they've each become since their time in the Republic, a new danger creeps into the distance that's grown between them. Eden soon finds himself drawn so far into Ross City's dark side, even his legendary brother can't save him, at least not on his own.
All right. Okay, you know how we do. What was your first impression when you finished the book?
I liked it. I really liked it. Yeah. What about you?
I liked it, but as always, I have to go against the grain. And it should have been a novella. It didn't need to be a whole book. It took a And this is like one of those oddities for me. Like I said, I did like it, But it took me a while to get through it. I'd listen and I'm like, oh, I don't feel like this. And I'd turn it off. And then I'd listen again. And it's not like I was bored or annoyed, but I just wasn't there.
Interested?
Yeah. And then I literally just finished it like an hour ago. Because I'm like, I woke up this morning and I'm like, oh my God, the book. Fucking book. I'm like, okay. 2.0 speed. Let's get through this thing. I probably could have listened on 2.5. The narrators talk so slow.
Wow.
But I wanted to make sure I caught everything and didn't have to replay anything. So I settled on 2.0 and I, just got through it. And I don't know. I just don't like that feeling when it's the end and it's like,
That's fair. That's fair.
So what'd you like about it?
I thought it was really interesting. This is actually hilariously ironic. The whole time in the trilogy, you and I kept saying that we wanted them to be older, like their early 20s. Eden's 21 or 22. The whole time I kept picturing him as like 15 or 16. Like he just read so young.
He did.
And I just had to laugh at myself at that because I was like, this whole time I wanted them to be in their 20s. And now that we have characters in their 20s, I'm like, no, I want teenagers again.
Eden, and actually Day and Eden, they are really immature when it comes to women.
Oh, yeah.
Like extraordinarily immature. Like they can't speak their words. They are very fearful to say anything and timid. And I feel like those are not characteristics of boys in their 20s, at least not most of them. So
Eden read as young to you, right? Like
he read very young.
Himself that he was 21, but he's still being bullied in school. He's very shy and doesn't know how to like stare people in the eye. He can't kiss the girl he likes. And I'm just like, yeah, no, he feels very young. Yeah,
which is one thing I didn't like, because even though Day treated him young, right? Because I could understand that point of view because Day always took care of him. Okay, that's fine. But for us, the reader and everybody else, why couldn't you show us him as a 21-year-old or however old he is? Like, give me someone a little older feeling. I wanted that, and I didn't get it.
Yeah, no, he was treating himself like he was much younger. And I wonder, because the book is labeled as YA, and they never once mentioned anybody's name in this book. I was on the lookout. Like, I know it's 10 years later. So if you've been following the series, they're all in their 20s. But if this is the first book you ever picked up by the author, if you've never read the original trilogy, you'd read this and be like, oh, look, kind of young, right?
They feel young. I mean, even Day and June. And of course, in this book, we only got Day and Eden's perspective, but June was there. Day and June are like 28 years old. Like almost 29 years old. They are like pushing 30. There's no reason why you can't say you're still in love with her. Like, really? Like, why are we doing this?
He's a scared little boy who doesn't know how to admit emotions. I don't know.
Like, why are we doing this right now? Like, June is so much more, on the page, she read so much more mature than Day to me.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
So
I was wondering if that was supposed to be like the women mature faster than men thing, which is bullshit, but also,
yeah,
it's definitely more mature than him.
Absolutely. And I wish they were more evenly yoked. I guess at the end, they kind of seemed like they were a little more right at the end there. But with that being said, I did like, because, at the end of the last book, I complained, I don't want it to be, you get in this book and bam, they together. I do not want that. That doesn't make sense. So how the author approached their relationship, I did appreciate. They weren't.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, they weren't up under each other 24/7. They had their own lives. They weren't instantly like, let me move to where you are.
Took them a couple weeks, but they got there.
But I feel like it was more believable because It wasn't like immediately. Like, I seen you again after 10 years and here we are. Let's go. So I could appreciate that.
What did you think of their conversation when he was asking her, why did you leave 10 years ago?
That was such a brush off, because in the last discussion, I said that was wrong. Like, I would want you to tell me and let me make the choice for myself, or at least say what it is and say, hey, I'll see you around, something. But how he was like, oh, she did that for me. I'm like, shut the hell up. Get out of here. You do not act how I think you should act, Day. Not to say that there's some stereotypical things that men should be doing and not doing, but I feel like someone so combative, someone who goes against the grain, someone who speaks up for himself and other people would not be cool with what she did. I mean, even if he wasn't outraged, he should at least be seeking a dang on apology or something.
Yeah. She didn't apologize. He didn't ask for an apology. She was kind of like, yeah, I just walked away. He's like, yeah, that's fine. You just walked away. Yeah. We're all fine.
Yeah, you did it for me. It's cool. It's all good. Let's move on. Like, what? Come on.
I read that soon. I was like, Tamara has feelings about this.
I know. And that was the perfect opportunity to, like, really show Day's maturity and, like, really hash some things. I feel like that was a perfect opportunity that was missed for that character specifically.
Oh yeah. No, he had a lot of growing that he needed to do, and he kind of did it, and he touched on it, but he was also still a very immature little boy at the same time. Acting like it. I
don't know. I guess the only thing that was mature about him was his handling, I guess, of saving the government again.
Saving the government again.
You know, I mean, he decided to actually help his brother instead of trying to smother him to death, which was very mature of him. He realized, but of course, June had to tell him, like, hey,
he's your brother. He's exactly like you.
Right.
It's okay.
Yeah. So he still needed some help, but
yes.
He got there.
Be fair, that's the point of the book. We all need help. We need each other, so he can lean on June in this moment and learn and grow and get better.
Oh my gosh. So speaking of being young, so he act young, and poor Eden, he is so sheltered and oblivious. Like, okay, so he's out there flying drones and this big baddie comes. He's like, hey, let me take care of your interest fee. You know, like, it's cool. Let's try to, get this money or whatever. And he's looking like, who is this guy? He can tell something is off, right? But he's like, oh, it's fine. It's fine. No worries. No big deal. He just wants to win money.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some stranger just walks up to you and offers to pay $10,000.
Yeah.
It says it's no big deal. Like, no, Eden. No, honey.
Some stranger just gonna walk up to you and be like, just take care of it. No questions asked. No.
You're a sugar baby. You've been bought and sold. Like, it's not a good thing.
He definitely needs to be more aware, right?
I thought with his friend Pressa that, she would be a little bit more street savvy and be like, no, you don't take money from strangers. But she was into it too.
Yeah, I think at first she didn't want him to take it. And she said, I'll come back with the real money. Because y'all, if you didn't read it, she had fake money. It was not real. It was, they were accusing her of trying to cheat and enter with this, fraudulent money. So she's like, I'll come back. I'm like, with what though? With what? You don't have nothing? So, I mean, I think she just kind of felt like she had to just go along with it, I guess, because she ultimately didn't have any money.
I mean, yeah. But the other thing is, Eden had the money in his own bank account. If they left and went to the bank and got cash and came back, Eden could have paid for it himself.
which he was willing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
They're not going to let him leave.
no. Weird.
It was weird.
Yeah.
Again, they seem very young and very immature and very just like, oh yeah, let's go along with whatever.
Let's do it. Whatever. Yay. Let's make some money. Woo. But okay, so the villain, right?
Mm-hmm.
The villain. I can't remember his name right now. Do you remember his name? Dominic.
Dominic Can with two N's.
Yes. He was such and sometimes I don't mind it. And I guess working within the amount of pages and time they had, it was fine. But it wasn't lost on me how basic and obvious this villain was.
He was like villain 101 cardboard cutout standard villain,
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing that kept bothering me in the beginning, they kept describing him as really young. Like Daniel or Day, whatever his name is now, saw him and is like, oh, wow, he looks really young. He looks really young.
Mm-hmm.
Then we found out the backstory where he's married, had a son, his wife and son got killed. Then he started working his way up through the gang and finally became this villain. I'm like, well, how old is he? And they kept saying he was young. I figured he was like maybe 30.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're like, oh my God, he's so young. He's so young.
Well, I mean, he could be the same age as Day. He could be 28. He could be 25 and gotten married and had a kid.
Yes, it just felt like working his way up through the gang and then taking over and then having some time as the head honcho. Like, that made me feel like he was older.
Yeah. Maybe but the way he explained it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I would agree with that as well, but I kind of let it just slide over me. Yeah, but yeah, he definitely should have probably been at least mid-30s, at least.
Yeah. And then the way at the end where they're like, oh, he's old and sick and pale and frail. And I was like, what?
Okay, so we knew he had something going on with his like chest or throat or something. Mm-hmm. But I think the author missed putting something in that he was getting sicker daily or something.
Well, she kind of described it. Like every time I saw him, he looked sicker.
I don't even remember that. I just remember her describing his voice and like coughing and like I just remember that. And then it was like, oh, we're gone and we're back. And this guy looks deathly. So I don't even remember.
I mean, yeah, no, that was basically it, is that he's young, but coughing in the beginning. And then the second half is like, he looks like death. Mm-hmm. I'm like, who is this villain? What does he look like? I don't know. I can't picture him.
I wanted something definitive. Like, okay, so Day, how many interactions did he have with, not Day, Eden? How many interactions? So he had the first one when he, raced. Mm-hmm. And then did he see him again?
Race.
The second race?
The second race. Mm-hmm.
And then the third time was when he was kind of like taken.
Yes.
And then that was it until they came back, right? So 4 times. So I guess there might not have been enough time to tell us that he was getting sicker, but my confusion came in when Prasa tried to give him this healing serum. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, why would he take that? Like,
yeah, that made no sense. That was just like this evil villain is not going to just take something you hand him and drink it. Like people try to poison him all the time. He's not just going to trust you.
Right. And then I didn't even have any inkling that he was looking for a cure or something. Because if he's so wealthy and that cure could have been made by her father, why didn't he just buy it?
Yeah. And it wasn't like a specific like cure. It was just here, let's help your cough a little bit, but also make you very feverish and fall asleep.
Right. Because she added other stuff to it that would.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it makes no sense. It's not like this was some kind of treatment that was extra hard to find. I'm like, he could have just had this treatment the whole time and bought it himself. So
yeah. No, it was a weird ploy for like a reason to have her there.
Yeah.
With Eden at the end. But that made no sense. Like it didn't really work.
No, it didn't. This always happens when we talk about these books. I swear it always happens. I'm always like, it was fine. And then we start talking and I'm like, but this and that and this and that and this.
And that's happening to me right now. I finished the book. I was like, oh yeah, I like it. And I'm like, but let's poke these holes. Let's poke at this. Let's nitpick that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay, y'all. So we are going to take a quick break. Okay. Please check out the book review journal that is available now on Amazon. Click the little links in the show notes. Feel free to join us on Shelf Addiction Official. Also, please listen to the commercials. Listening to those commercials, by doing that, you are supporting the podcast. So we will be right back after this. Today's episode is brought to you by the Shelf Addiction merch store. Check out all the bookish t-shirts, notebooks, mugs, and more. Don't miss out on these original designs, perfect for any book nerd. Support the podcast and visit shelfaddiction.com/merch and pick up your next favorite bookish item. All right, guys, welcome back. You enjoy that commercial break? I know I did. We're going to jump back into the final book in the Legend. I keep wanting to say trilogy, but that's wrong. The Legend series.
Series. But this is the finale. It's over. It's done.
And can I just say, if you haven't picked up on it already, I kind of hate that period. I kind of hate that we had an end and it felt like an end. And I was okay with that end. And then randomly, here we are again, 6 years later, with a continuance that no one was expecting.
Did you read her acknowledgments at the end? Okay, so at the very end, like you read the last page, the next page is the acknowledgments. She says that she kind of started getting an inkling for Rebel as she was writing Champion. Because, they came to Antarctica, she was seeing the city, or she was creating the city. And she was starting to get an inkling of this story. But then she wrote a duology, her Warcross series. And then she came back and wrote Rebel. Mm-hmm. So she kind of had this, not really planned, but like percolating in her mind as she was writing Champion. And honestly, like, I'm kind of glad she wrote it. I liked seeing Eden grow up. I liked seeing that he got to, grow into his own and save the world by himself. It was a little hilarious that Day is still climbing walls like Spider-Man. If I tried doing that, no.
Yes, he's getting older, his old ass trying to climb up, jump over walls and stuff. He's and climbing, parkouring and everywhere. Yes.
I'm just like, nope. My body says nope.
I mean, I kind of agree with you, but I don't think it was needed. The way that trilogy ended, I would have been just fine with it.
Yes. I love that epilogue. I loved that 10-year jump. I loved that epilogue. It was a good conclusion. Mm-hmm. But I don't hate this story for existing.
Yeah, so. No. But I kind of feel like, I'm just going to say it. So,
say it.
In the future, when we say we're going to do 3 books, we're going to do 3 books.
Do 3 books. Okay.
Because we changed it. I don't know if you guys been following along. We were only going to do the first 3 and we changed it. And like I said, I liked this book, quote unquote, right? But I stand by, if I never read this book, I would have been all right. Mm-hmm. So I firmly stand by that. And I feel like we should follow our intuition going forward. If we set something, we should stick to it, because that might have been part of my problem with getting through this book.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
Like it was its own story, but there were also so many callbacks, not just with his memories about June and like trying to recreate all of that, but looking at Eden and Prissa. You know, Eden's basically June, the star pupil, graduating early. Everybody wants him for his brain. He can't climb walls yet, but, you know, that's coming. And Prissa's the girl who drags him to the Undercity. She's the one who introduces him to, you know, all the nefarious legal stuff. So it was very much not quite a retelling of Day in June, but this is the same story.
A very familiar story, like, you know, Day in June 2.0, basically.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there was a parent that died, although it wasn't Eden's fault. But there was a parent that died, of course. So it's like the same kind of vibe, you know, and it wasn't really needed. And I think some of the people now, when I was scrolling through Goodreads, apparently the shippers of Daniel and June created a name. Did you know that?
No, what is it?
It's Dune, Dune. So obvious, right? So obvious.
Yes.
But I think that those shippers really got the payoff that they really wanted. Which was good for them. So at the end, I don't know if we mentioned it per se, but at the very end of the book, Dave finally gets his life together and proposes to June. And it was really cute. I'm like, that is a
so
really cute proposal. And that is a woman's proposal. That's how you know a woman wrote this book. That is a woman's proposal. That is what a woman would want for a proposal.
Yes.
But it was very cute. I'm like, oh, so all the little shippers could skip off into the sunset knowing.
I mean, I was happy with it. I thought it was absolutely adorable.
Yeah.
I was fine with the epilogue when they met and just saw each other. Like, that was fine. But having this closure, yeah, I totally, absolutely adored it.
Yeah. All they could get divorced later, but you know. I see, look, that's me being rude. See, I mean it like that. Look, it was cute. It was cute. When I was like listening, I'm like, oh, the little lights and the sparkling lights. I'm like, I can imagine that. You know, it sounds really fairy tale like and just memorable. Like, where's the cameras? Who's recording this for later?
Eden probably has like 3 drones flying around filming it. Right.
And so we know they get to live happily ever after, supposedly, right? So that's fun.
It's a happy book. It's a happy ending. They save the world constantly.
Yeah, and even Eden gets his happily ever after with the girl that he finally gets his life together. And he's like, let me just kiss her. I'll just kiss her instead of telling her. And then she kisses him back. And he's like, oh, no, she's going to pull away. And then she's like, oh, I've been wanting you to do that. And after all of that, you think they may not be together. But I was waiting. For him to say, why don't you come back with me?
I knew that question was coming.
Yeah.
What does she have here? Nothing.
Right.
No, you want adventure? Go to America.
Right. You've said you don't want to stay here. Why not go? Why not?
Do it. Just do it.
Just do it. Even though they too could also break up, but we'll just leave it there.
I mean, they are much younger and have gone through much less trauma than June and Day. So yeah, they can break up.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll find happiness somewhere else in America.
Right. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. But I did like it. So in the end, I did like that everyone kind of got their little lucky ending. You know, the bad guy went to jail. But overall, though, because I knew this was the final wrap up, I really didn't feel like anything was high stakes. Nothing at all felt high stakes to me, which I think is, I don't know if that's just me or if it's that the author could have stretched a little bit more. I just felt like no high stakes for anybody. Like, I'm like, oh, June's never going to die. Neither will Day. Neither will Eden. I felt like when Pressa got shot, I'm like, oh, she'd be all right. I mean, I did not feel like any kind of like high stakes vibe for any of these main characters.
There could have definitely been some more tension. It was kind of low stakes, but she did get shot. Day got grazed with a blade. Eden almost fell off a railing somehow, like learned parkour through osmosis and saved himself.
I know, like he learned it in what, a day and a half or something.
Not
like
even. They went for one run. And
let me go for one run with him and learn all the things, and now I'm an expert.
Now I can run and jump and shimmy down poles and do this and that. It's just like, okay, sure.
Well, it wasn't lost on me after that run. He was out like the dead for that sleep. And then he woke up the next day. He should have been, honestly, he should have been limping everywhere for the next 3 days after doing that.
But he is young. He is 21 or whatever. So
I mean, even a 21-year-old, though, because think about it. He wasn't in the most fit person to begin with, right?
That's true. No, he was
just
not.
Because of all the illnesses and stuff he had. And then to go from zero to hero, like overnight, I'm like, you should have been like, my back, my knee.
Bruises everywhere.
I'm just saying. And yes, he will recover more quickly because he's younger. But the very next day, he should have been feeling that.
Yes. So there should have been some ibuprofen, some ice packs,
Let's just imagine it's all good. We could all learn that kind of stuff through osmosis, like you said. Okay, what else is going on in this story that we should cover? What do you think?
Well, I have a question for you.
Okay.
So I don't remember if this was on the actual podcast or during our book club discussion, but we, I think the last book, asked, where would you like to live in this world? And you said you wanted to live in Antarctica.
Yes.
Does that still stand up?
It does still stand up.
You still want to be there?
I still do, because I know, just like Eden knew he could just be parkouring it the next day, I know that I would have a high level no matter what. So yes, that would suck for the people. But I'm be very selfish and be like at my high level. I would take that over a broke down city that can't even rebuild anything. Like, I still don't want to be somewhere where the whole place is poor. The whole place is, I don't want that. But now that, especially now that Eden has put his little bug in there and has changed the algorithm a little bit, right?
Yeah.
I feel like it's even better for everyone. So like people can now protest and people can now, fight bullies without being knocked down a couple points. So those things make a difference. Yeah.
I'm not penalized for being homeless.
Right.
Oh, yeah. So that was all definitely needed and necessary.
Yeah, I still would pick it. And, I think, and that's, like I said, that's just because I know, quote unquote, I know I would have an over 50 number. Wasn't that the number to get to the higher levels?
Yes.
Look, I might be riding 51 or 52 the whole time, but I would be above 50. I'll be like Eden, like, okay, I'm trying to keep this number up, but this guy deserved it. -10. Like, what? Oh, my God. What about you? Would you still pick what you picked before?
I picked America before, or the Republic of America. And I think I would stay there. I don't know. I just don't like the idea of gamifying Antarctica. I would definitely come visit you, but I don't think I could live that.
Yeah, I don't know. I have tried to gamify tasks before. They have some apps where you can kind of do that, and it never stuck. Like, I'm like, I like the idea of it, but it just never stuck. Now, if I was in a world where I didn't have a choice and it was like attached to me.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd like to think it'd be fine because it's automated. I don't have to do anything but live my life.
That little bug right behind your ear, and it tracks you everywhere.
I know, but so do cell phones. I mean, honestly, you can't go unless you're one of the people that literally, and I don't personally know anyone that will turn their phone off in the morning, leave it at home, and go about their day. I don't know not one person that would do that.
I have forgotten my phone just because, like, I set it down on the counter and walk out the door without it. And then, 5 minutes later, I'm like, oh, fuck, where's my phone?
Mm-hmm.
I've definitely done that. But no, I don't intentionally leave it.
Yeah. So all of our devices, tablets, phones, they're all listening already.
Oh, yeah.
Google Maps tracks you around everywhere because when it says, hey, you went to this restaurant, do you want to leave a review? Oh, it was right on your ass. It knows where you've been.
Yep.
So I don't know. I guess I don't think of it like that anymore just because it's already in our current existence right now.
Yeah.
But yes, it's not embedded, but maybe one day, because I think people were talking about, hey, could you have a chip that shows your vaccination statuses and your credit cards and everything else? Like I've seen some articles where people were talking about that, but it's all, people being very dystopian about it, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I guess we'll have to see what it looked like in 50 years. Hopefully I'm here to see what it looked like.
I hope you're still around. That would be awesome.
I know. I'd be an old ass mean lady, I think. Because, the older you get, you just don't give zero fucks about stuff the older you get. So.
No fucks given.
Exactly.
No fucks to give.
There are none left to give at all. So you get none. And I'm cool with that. Yes. Yeah, I'm curious if you were listening last time, or even if this is your first time listening, tell us what kind of world would you want to live in? If you had choices, these are your choices. We're not going to go over the third one again, but there was a third choice from the last book. But like in this situation, let's say you could just pick between these two worlds where it's like really poor and they're trying to survive and they're trying to negotiate for money on a daily basis just to keep their infrastructure growing, or a place that is very wealthy, but they keep track of you and they gamify your life. Which would you pick?
And let us know.
Yeah.
Join the Facebook group, tweet us, except I'm never on Twitter. Or just talk to us.
Exactly. Fill us in. All right. So I think we should rate Rebel. What do you think?
It. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Let's do it.
You want to go first? Okay.
I did enjoy this book. I liked it when I finished it, but talking with you, I keep poking at it. So I think I have to go with this 3 stars.
Okay.
Like it was a good, solid book. If somebody has read the original trilogy, I'd say, yeah, go ahead and read this one too. Like I think it's a worth read. Like definitely read it. But again, I would always probably recommend this to 15-year-olds and young teenagers.
Yes.
So
3 it is. Okay. I am with you. I'm at a solid 3. Like you, I liked it. I don't think it was a waste of time, but to be quite frank, I could have not read it and not missed anything. But I concur with Casey again. If you've read the other 3, why not? You might as well, right? If you've already read it and you're curious, right? If you're curious, go ahead. But I ultimately wanted a much more adult book, and I didn't get that.
This is still very YA, even though they were in their 20s.
Yeah, and I don't know why we couldn't get that because, I guess maybe she was just taking a very distinct path of staying YA. But there have been other books that start YA and they transform and they are no longer YA after you get to a certain point. So it's been done before. Other authors have done it, and I would have liked it better had she taken that route. Like, give me a little bit more. I think maybe that would have boosted the star count a little bit.
Yeah.
But this was just more of the same to me.
It was.
So
it was.
3 it is.
Yeah. Good, solid book. Good, solid series. I like her writing. I might check out something else eventually down the road. I'm not rushing to read her, but I'm not throwing her aside either.
Exactly. We'll see. We'll see what else she comes out with. I guess I just, if she writes more YA, I might not revisit her as an author, just depending on my mood.
I think everything she writes is YA.
Okay, well, she needs to try something else. Try something else on for size. I'm just saying. No hate, though. Do what you do, girl. I just probably won't pick it up. Okay, so next up, we need to share with you, if you haven't been in the Facebook group or in the book club's group, you would have, if you had been, you would have already known what we're reading next. But if you weren't, we are here to share that with you today. So we are going to go back to our roots of paranormal romance. Yay.
So excited.
And we are going to finish out this entire year with a series. So it is actually 6 books long, which gives us just enough to finish this in December. And I think it's going to be a light, fun, adult romp with some sex. That's what I think it's going to be. Yes.
Fingers crossed.
Yes.
I'm back.
And it is not a post-apocalyptic. It's not dystopian.
The world's not over.
Yeah, I think it's really urban fantasy feeling, like urban vibe, right? Mm-hmm. So anyway, without further ado, we are going to be talking about the Stray series. Isn't that what it's called? Is it the whole series?
Is it the Shifter? Book 1 is Stray.
So Shifters, yes. The Shifter series. We're starting with book 1, which is Stray by Rachel Vincent.
Yes.
So have you read Rachel Vincent in the past?
I tried reading one of her YA series, and I did not like it. So
this is adult, so
yes,
we've got that going for us. Now, I have read one thing by her, and I liked it. Let me just pull up and see how much of this I did read. No, I only read the first book, but I liked it. So she has a trilogy. And the first book is called Menagerie. And so the trilogy is called Menagerie. And it was like, about a traveling carnival, right? Cool. With all type of like animals and strange things that talk and walk, like mermaids and minotaurs and like kelpies and things like that. So I was really intrigued by that. And I gave the first book 4 stars. I enjoyed it, but obviously not enough to go back and finish the other 2 books. I don't know what that means. So hopefully, well, no doubt about it, we are going to read these books. So I don't have a choice but to finish this series. So I'm excited for it. What about you?
Yeah. Oh, I'm very excited. I know you've never read Shifter Cats before, but Shifter Cats were my introduction to paranormal romance with Christine Feehan and Nalini Singh, 10, 15 not quite 20 years ago, but
wow.
I love Shifter Cats almost as much as I love werewolves.
Yeah, Shifter Cats are new to me, which should be interesting. So I'm like, okay. So you're going to be like a cat or like a werecat? I mean, are you going to be like digging in kitty litter or like, what's happening? We gonna find out.
All the ones I've read are like panthers or leopards or like big cats who like to lay out in the sun, but also can claw your face off.
Okay, we'll see what kind of cats these are, because we'll see. We will see. I'm not gonna say anything, but I'm gonna give it I am excited for it, so I'm going to give it the whole chance. I'm just excited to be reading something adult and something, I think, with a lighter vibe,
Yes.
Because this stuff has been kind of heavy, even though it's YA,
Oh, yeah. No, this was the world ending, and there are so many parallels for what's actually happening in America right now. And, Eden had his whole speech about being the hero at the end. And, it was good, but it was rough.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's get some cats and sexy time.
Let's get some sexy time in. We're going to have some good, steamy conversations coming. So be sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you are listening. If this is your first time here, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button before you leave. Whatever app you're listening on, we definitely appreciate you for being here. And of course, all of our supporters from day one and all the listeners that we've gathered along the way. We love you guys too. And we hope that you will join us for this fun ride into a shifter land.
Yes.
All right, I think we're done. What do you think, Casey?
I think we're done. I think that's all the stuff we need to talk about.
All right, so it's been a fun time, and we will see you guys in the next one. Take care of yourselves. Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.
If you enjoyed today's episode and would like to show your support, there are a few things you can do. Head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave a positive 5-star review, or like this episode on your favorite podcast player. It seems so simple, but it really helps me out. You can share this podcast with other book nerd friends or on your favorite social media space. You can also join the Shelf Addiction Patreon family. For as little as $2 a month, you will help us produce even more awesome content for your ears. You can also consider joining the Shelf Addiction official Facebook group, where we talk all things bookish and more in a safe space. The Shelf Addiction podcast is a part of the Nerdy Maven Network. You can also reach us via email at info@shelfaddiction.com. Thank you for listening.